I play a successful author, successful Black woman named Veronica Henley, and Veronica finds herself trapped in a horrifying reality that forces her to confront the past, the present, and the future before it's too late.
What are we doing? What is the plan?
I've never seen anything like this, and it's such a powerful film. Just as the viewer, for you reading this story and being a part of it, what were your first thoughts?
Janelle Monáe's manager and I, Mikhail, he and I happened to be on the same panel together. And he told me about the script. He told me within the same cadence of the script. So when he gets to the twist I was like, oh, snap. I was like, that movie's going to be dope without thinking I'd ever be a part of it. But then when I read the script, I thought, oh no, this movie is more than just dope. This movie is important. This movie is a game changer. And so I feel blessed to be a part of that.
That being said, my mother has instructed me that I am not allowed to hang out with your character, Elizabeth, whatsoever.
That's probably some good, motherly advice. But unfortunately, all of us have to hang out with characters like this. There's some of them leading, our country. There's a lot of them in our government. They're, it's sort of the invisible element where you can't really tell, our neighbors, our teachers. I mean, this type of, white supremacic delusion has indoctrinated us all, as it has our, legislative, body of our government.
And this is a film that centers around this Black woman and symbolizes the burden that Black women carry on their backs and the emotional labor that we have to go through to dismantle white supremacy and systemic racism every single day.
What was going through your mind?
I mean, it was gripping. The entire story was had me at the edge of my seat and I was lying down. So it was incredible.
Being honest and truthful, and making sure that I was allowing my ancestors and the spirit of them to guide me. There was a lot of spirit work that had to be done with this film, and that was my number one priority.
Going along those lines, how do you get ready for a role like this? I mean, it's pretty impactful as you watch it. I can only imagine, acting that character.
Yeah, it's not the most joyful embodiment I've ever taken on, but it actually, I feel like, was one of the most important. Just because right now it's really, beyond anything, it's such an important time for us white people of privilege to really be looking at our ancestors, to be inviting our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and our great-grandfathers into the room with us, even just metaphysically, and just realizing, like, listen, I have love and compassion for you, but we have to have a really hard conversation. Like, I really need to know and understand why you've allowed these systems to take place, why you've continued to indoctrinate your children with these systems of hate and delusion.
This film is a reminder that the past is not the past. You can't talk about policing and police brutality and police violence and racist policies that are happening right now without looking at chattel slavery and realizing that not only were Black people stolen and forced to work over here, but they stole doctors, they stole nurses, they stole writers, they stole musicians, artists, sisters, brothers, thought leaders.
How did this get started for you guys? What inspired you to tell this story?
The idea of Antebellum came from a nightmare that I had shortly after my father passed. And my dad, both my mom and dad were in Houston. And it was a really traumatizing event, and I had difficulty processing it. And when C and I first moved to Los Angeles, shortly after arriving, I had this horrific nightmare. And in that nightmare, it was Eden this woman, to call it a nightmare is actually reductive because it felt like an ancestral divine experience. But Eden was screaming for help across dimensions to me. And I wrote down every detail of that nightmare because I was so distraught that I couldn't reach her. That night, as I was writing the notes, right down to when she refused to refer to her tormentor by name, she would only call him with all caps. And I told Christopher that it felt like, this woman didn't have a cell phone. She couldn't reach help, that she was so desperate that she was screaming out in a way that it reached me across without a technology. That's the only way I could describe it. And so that nightmare is what became the seed of Antebellum. It's really the Antebellum movie, but Christopher and I put pen to paper, wrote the short story that eventually became the screenplay that we wrote. That is what you saw on screen.
It was beautifully written, and the writing was so clever. I mean, it was the way that it was kind of accordioning time was just so effective for its purpose. And I was actually originally reading for the part that Jena Malone played, so I was reading it with that lens, just being like, oh my God, this is, trying to get my head around what it was that I was going in for. So I had it with that in mind too, where I was thinking of taking on a role that would have been kind of a representation of something very evil and dark. So, I had it in that lens. And then I got to play someone who was, kind of existed in a much more fun world. So it wound up being.
I think for me as a mother, it felt like a really just an important embodiment ritual to sort of, find the truth in our whitewashed history, and to be as accurate and to sort of remove as much white fragility from that. This is not a white savior film. If anything, this is sort of an accurate description of, the history that we've been enduring for the past 400 years. So I don't know, it felt really, really important.
What is Janelle Monáe's life motto?
I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by people that make me laugh, that can take the edge off such a what seems like a heavy reality. Not only are Black folks fighting against police and police brutality and protesting racist policy and white supremacy and systemic racism and dealing with microaggressions, we're also trying to survive COVID-19. It affects us in disproportionate amounts. Black people are essential workers, and having to deal with that and dealing with the government and all of that, you have to figure out your balance. So if I need to take a bath, I need to take a bath. So balance is important. That's it. I'll know when I've had enough.
What was it like to wear those costumes? And I kept looking at the screen. I was like, I wonder what it was like to just dress up for that era.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if it had been set in a different type of environment, we were investigating different type of themes of humanity, it maybe would have been more joyful, but I just kept thinking how backwards things were, just like there was a lot of facade work going on, and as much as it's sort of like, beautiful to look at the past and the history of, the petticoats and all that, it just felt kind of like really backwards, like women should not be wearing these things. And I'm glad that we've, evolved culturally to be able to accept the femme energy in whatever space they want to embody.
How timely is this film right now to come out?
I think we couldn't have predicted that this would be the moment that Antebellum would be released into the world, but we, I think it's incredibly relevant, and we're huge fans of the movie theaters and the theatrical experience, and we always intended for this film to be released in theaters, but we had the option of pushing it to later 2021 or having it come out in this way now. And, we all felt that this movie is very much of the moment and is needed.
As we talk today, the March Through Washington is happening. So we definitely need this film. And thank you both for your time. Gerard, make sure you tell your mom you're going to be on Fox 26.
Thanks, brother. Thank you so much. Love to Houston.
Hey, you guys are amazing. I can't wait to talk to you in person. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this film. We need it.